There's a version of this story built around an unnamed Nippur tablet claiming that a pre-divine order of erased beings holds a binding legal claim that outranks the gods themselves, a debt the Anunnaki inherited along with the world, which will be automatically settled once a specific set of real-world conditions occur simultaneously, with no divine will, permission, or judgment required at all. I want to handle the center of this one the same, direct way I've handled a small number of other sources in this series. Not as an interesting possibility to weigh, but as a claim that needs to be named as false because of what it does to the concept of divine authority itself. But first, the usual accounting, because there's real material tangled up in this one too. There's no locatable Nippur tablet matching this description, no verifiable 1963 University of Chicago dissertation citing it, and no published translation anywhere in the accessible Assyriological record. The University of Pennsylvania's real 1888 to 1900 Nippur excavation is accurately described, and it's real that a genuine category of Sumerian descent literature, including the real myth of Inanna's descent into the underworld and her negotiations with Ereshkigal at the Seven Gates, exists and is well studied. That's real ancient literature, accurately summarized. Here's something that needs direct correction. Hermann Hunger is a real, highly respected scholar of Babylonian astronomy, a genuine, currently cited authority in the field. The specific claim attributed to him here, a 1992 footnote describing an undatable planetary alignment tied to this tablet, isn't something that can be located in his real, published body of work. Attaching a specific dramatic claim to a real, living, or recently active scholar's name is a more serious issue than inventing a fictional researcher, because it risks misrepresenting what an actual, checkable person has said. Now, the comparative religion woven through this piece deserves a fair, careful hearing, because it's mostly built from real traditions. The Hindu pictures are a genuine and important category of ancestor-related belief in Vedic tradition, connected to real, ongoing ritual practice like Shraddha. Egyptian Maya really is understood by Egyptologists as a cosmic principle that gods themselves operate within, rather than something they simply command. The Zoroastrian prophecies are a real and genuinely pre-existent category of spiritual being in that tradition. The Popol Vuh's account of multiple prior, failed creations is real and accurately described. Where this piece oversteps is in flattening these genuinely different, internally complex religious traditions into one identical, universal claim. The dead legally outrank the gods, when each of these traditions actually describes its own distinct, nuanced relationship between ancestors, cosmic order, and divine authority, not a single interchangeable structure. Real comparative religion takes those differences seriously rather than smoothing them into a single thesis. Now, the center of it, and here I want to be as direct as anywhere in this series. The claim that a debt or legal claim exists which can bind, supersede, or automatically override divine will, with no permission, judgment, or decision required from the divine being in question, isn't a claim I'm going to treat as one interpretation among several. From an Islamic standpoint, it's false, and it's worth explaining precisely why, because this is a more specific and, in its own way, more subtle problem than simply proposing hidden powers control history. Islamic belief holds that Allah is as-Samad, entirely self-sufficient and depended upon by all else while depending on nothing himself, and that Allah has no predecessor, no origin, and no inherited obligation of any kind. Nothing came before him, nothing is owed by him, and nothing outside his own will can compel or automatically trigger any outcome regardless of his decision. A framework where a debt from before creation binds and eventually overrides divine authority, activating on its own once certain conditions line up, isn't describing a variation on real religious belief. It's describing something Islamic theology holds to be impossible in principle. This is worth saying plainly rather than softly, the same way a false scientific claim gets corrected rather than debated. There's a real, serious issue folded into this piece worth crediting honestly, separate from the supernatural framing. Global freshwater aquifer depletion is real, well documented, and accelerating in many regions. A genuinely important environmental concern studied by real hydrologists and climate scientists. It's a different matter entirely to treat this real trend as a coded condition in an ancient legal contract triggering a supernatural reversal. The environmental reality deserves to be taken seriously on its own terms, through real policy and science, not folded into an unverifiable ancient countdown. As with other sources in this series, the specific astronomical window calculation claiming relevance to the present century deserves the same standard response. There's no real basis for treating any ancient numerical or astronomical claim as a working prediction of a specific present-day event, and Islamic teaching holds that knowledge of the unseen future belongs to Allah alone, regardless of the calculation offered. It's also worth naming, briefly, the same technique flagged in another recent piece in this series, repeatedly deferring to a second linked document, the 7 resets, and promising the real answer in yet another video. That's a structural device for keeping an audience moving between unverifiable claims rather than a growing body of evidence. So, where does that leave us? With real, respected comparative religious traditions, the pictures, Ma'at, the prophecies, the Popol Vuh's multiple creations, each genuinely rich and worth understanding on its own terms rather than flattened into one artificial thesis. A real, respected scholar whose name is attached to a claim he isn't documented as making, a real and serious environmental issue folded into an invented supernatural trigger. And, at the center, a theological claim that Islamic belief doesn't treat as an open question. Allah's authority has no predecessor, answers to no inherited debt, and cannot be bound or automatically triggered by any condition outside his own will. If this kind of thread interests you, the real comparative religious traditions named here, Vedic ancestor veneration, Egyptian Ma'at, Zoroastrian cosmology, and Maya creation accounts, are each genuinely rewarding to study honestly and specifically on their own terms without being folded into a single, invented legal mechanism none of them actually describes. Whatever a given tradition believes about ancestors, the underworld, or cosmic order, Islamic teaching is direct and unambiguous on one point that this story quietly denies. Nothing precedes Allah, nothing is owed by him, and nothing outside his will can determine what happens next.